Hello friends! Apologies if there's a bunch of random noise. The battery on my microphone went dead. And I got construction and just things. Anyway, this is Simon Says Stamps February 2022 card kit. It showed up in all the cold and snow and fun things. So, first off, you get one of Simon's mesh bags. They've done a cherry version now as well. The other ones were the aqua, Simon color, which one of these bags will hold the contents of an entire kit and then some, which is a really nice way to kind of keep things organized. I bought extras of these bags when Simon first released them. I need to do a ton of organizing, but also I was planning on having labeling them or something for my kids to keep some of their artsy crafty things in, because it's everywhere. It's everywhere. Anyway, I like that they come with the kits. So the kit itself is of course super duper fabulous. So this is the Season of Sentiments kit, and you get candy, of course. You get this gorgeous 6x8 stamp set. This is the Orchid Rose Bouquet. I would put money on this one being another Emily Midget designed stamp. It looks very similar. She designed the last really big floral that was just part of the, I think the To the Moon release that I love. So this one's gorgeous. It's huge. Huge stamp. You get a second stamp set with this as well. This is just the Simply Thank You set, which I love. I love that they have the same font too, so everything is kind of very coordinated, and what you can't go wrong with a mini set. So you get 2 stamp sets in this. You get the Miss You wafer die, which is the word and the outline. Another one that I just really like. It's just a really nice, classic sort of a font. You also get Simon's Dot Runner. I don't necessarily use this much for, I know some people will layer their panels and everything with this. I honestly like using it. I showed that in a recent video. I just use little bits of it to hold my cardstock in place when I'm blending, stuff like that. I love it for that because it's easy to sort of remove and work around because they're just a bunch of little dots. But yeah, you get a dot runner. You get a whole pack of these Tim Holtz Idea-ology Lock and Key Adornments. These are really cute. Oh, they're super sturdy too. Look at those. How fun are these? They're so cute. I'm probably gonna hoard these. I don't know, I always hoard all of my anything I get of the Idea-ology stuff. I'm so bad for that, but I just kind of like to display it, and then I go through it and I'm like, ooh, this is pretty. So you get a pack of that. You get pattern paper. This is the Simple Stories Happy Hearts 6x8 double-sided paper. This is another one of those packs where a bunch of it, honestly, you could totally frame these. They would make such cute little, a cute little symbol for a little IKEA frame or something. But yeah, really cute. I like the colors. These are really pretty. Yeah. These are really pretty. Hugs and kisses. Simple Stories always does really nice papers. I love that. So yeah, I love you to the moon and back. Yeah, really cute papers. So you get those. You get some of Simon's glitter paper. I love Simon's glitter paper. Use it a ton. It die cuts like a dream. It does not shed, because I know people have asked me that. I guess some brands maybe the glitter will shed off, but this doesn't shed. And you can die cut it and it's so pretty. Anyway, you get that. Envelopes, of course, and cardstock. Lovely. That all matches really nicely with pattern paper, everything. Yeah, this is I say that every month. Disclaimer, I forgot to add that at the beginning, as always. The kits are sent to me. I am a design team member for Simon Says Stamp. And yeah, I would purchase the kits, honestly, but by the time they get to me, because I'm in Canada, you know, all those things. But yeah, that's part of it. But my opinions are my own, and I don't have to do these unboxings. So yeah, I'm not sure yet what I'm going to do. Like, when it comes to large florals, you can do anything. You guys know I love. Hand me a large floral stamp, and I'm just like, yes, I'm there. Love it. Don't care. You know, I love it. So yeah, it's like heat embossing, messy watercolor, metallic, gold, black, and white. This would look beautiful. You know, my go-to. Like tone on tone emboss, like so many things. Like, this is a beautiful stamp. We'll see what I make with it. So just stay tuned. Just stay tuned. Also, as always, like, I'll link to the kit, to the subscription, to the info, to everything that is available separately, all that stuff, like I always do. You can always check that out in the description box below the video. I'll have it all there, and I'll also have a link to the blog post that goes with this, and I'll have the pictures and picture links and all the stuff. So you can check that out below, and then stay tuned to see what I make with this. Alrighty, so went with watercoloring. Again, apologies if you guys do manage to hear any like banging or weird noises in the background, because there's a bunch of construction going on like right next to my garage office space. So anyhow, I pulled out my MISTI. This is the regular size MISTI, so it gives you kind of an idea of just how ginormous this stamp is, and I love it. So I have a piece of, I just grabbed a piece of Reinker, like distress watercolor paper, and I have the smooth side facing up inside my MISTI. Figured out how I wanted to orient this huge stamp. And then I used my anti-static powder tool, and then I inked up the stamp with VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. You could just stamp the image and then watercolor, but old habits die hard. Plus, it's not just a habit, I just like having the raised embossed edge. So I ended up stamping it twice with the Nocturne ink to get a crisp stamped image. And then to emboss it, I'm using Wow's Clear Matte Dull embossing powder. Again, use whatever floats your boat. You could either not emboss, or you could just use regular clear embossing powder. The only difference is the Wow Clear Matte Dull, when it dries, basically like right after you heat emboss it and it cools down, it gives a matte finish, so it doesn't even look embossed. That's the only difference. If you use regular clear embossing powder, it would have that more shiny finish. So it's just it just depends on my mood. Like, there's no special reason or anything. It's just like, this is what I want to use today. So for the actual watercoloring, I pulled out a bunch of my Distress Reinkers, since I hadn't used them in a while to do any watercoloring. So I just have a little plastic palette here, and I'm putting just little tiny drops of the Reinkers, and I'll link to all the specific colors that I used. And so I put the little drops of the Reinkers onto a little plastic palette, and then I did my background first. So I just completely covered it with clear water, not being perfect about it, not too concerned. And then I added drops of water to the palette to thin down the Reinkers, because these are concentrated colors. These are technically not meant for watercolor. They're meant to re-ink your distress ink pads. However, I've done tons of videos using them as little watercolor mediums. The biggest thing you need to remember is you do need to add water to them. If you use too much of the Reinker and not enough water, they're not going to dry properly, because they have those, they have components in them meant for ink pads, if that makes sense. But I rarely ever, in fact, I don't think I've ever had an issue just using them as, to watercolor with. If you don't have the Reinkers, you can totally just smush ink pads. That works as well. The Reinkers just give you more concentrated color. And technically you should have the Reinkers if you have the ink pads, because, to re-ink your ink pads. So anywho, I did the background, just mixed in a bunch of various colors, dried that with my heat tool, and then painted all of the images with the Reinkers mixed with water, mixed some of the Reinkers as well. The roses, I did like kitsch flamingo and then some picked raspberry to intensify it. And then for the orchids, I used picked raspberry mixed with seedless preserves. That's kind of like my go-to combo to create this deep sort of magenta purpley sort of a color. So yeah, pretty basic. nothing too fancy. I would go back in before anything was fully dry with a little bit more of the Reinker, a little bit less water to get, more intense color, and just kind of layer that on top. And then for the greenery, I was using one of my fave green combos, which is Twisted Citron and Rustic Wilderness. They're such opposite sort of greens, and I've shown this in videos too. I don't know what it is. I love mixing those two together. I just like it a lot. So did all of my coloring, and I could have left it here, but you guys know me, I'm not gonna just leave it. So I did all my coloring, fixed a couple little boo-boos. I wasn't too concerned, again, because I'd done the background, everything, but there were a couple spots where it just looked wrong, where I'd kind of gone outside the lines and it just looked a little weird. So I just went over the background around the areas, dried it, it's good to go. So could have left it here, but you guys know me, gotta splatter all the things. It's just, again, it's habit. You just gotta do it. So put this in my splat box. Everything is dry at this point, and I just have this little porcelain palette. I've shown a bunch of videos that had some white gouache in it. After this video was done, I went and washed that palette out because all of the other little wells had previous reinkers in them that I had for previous videos, but it's been sitting for so long, it was full of lint and dust and but the white gouache part was still fine. So swirled that with my brush and splattered it heavily. I didn't even end here. I then grabbed my fan brush so I could add more splatter. And it still wasn't done. I cleaned out my fan brush and I just picked up water with it, just clean water, and splattered that as well, which you won't be able to really see in the video, but in real life, it does add different little splotches and texture in that because these are distress reinkers, so they are reactive with water. So I did all that, let it all dry, and then added more splatter. You can never have too much. So I pulled up my Zig gold mica liquid that, again, I've shown in several recent videos that I'm just obsessed with. So shook that up really well, dipped my fan brush in that, splattered it with that, and then again, let that completely dry. So while that was doing its thing, I have the stamps still in my MISTI. So I'm going to line up my card base inside the MISTI, and I'm just going to use some scrap paper to mask off where the score line is. So that'll mask off that portion, and then I can ink up this stamp with Simon's Bubblegum ink, just a nice light pink ink. So ink up the stamp with that. I'm going to stamp that onto the inside of the card base and then press it down a second time because I missed a spot, right up near the fold, of course. So close the lid, pressed it down, it's stamped, we're good to go. So I'd done that, and by this point my background's completely dry. So I cut down the background with a rectangle wafer die, and then I took the glitter paper from the kit and cut that with a slightly larger wafer die as well as a smaller one. So I can use that remaining little rectangle for other projects like a sentiment or whatever. I've shown this in videos. I like doing that with my specialty papers like glitter paper, my foil papers, etc. The ones where you don't have quite as much of. And it really bugs me to waste all of that on a card when you're not going to see, that center area. All I need is the little tiny edge because I just want this to be framed by that little bit of glitter. So I use my craft tacky glue to adhere this. When it comes to adhering anything on top of a glitter paper, I like to use a strong liquid adhesive. I find that's the best to really adhere it. So I use craft tacky glue, and then I just stuck my MISTI on top of it just to hold everything in place to let it really adhere. And then I put the card base back in the MISTI so I could stamp a sentiment from that little Simply Thank You stamp set that came in the kit. So I lined up the sentiment, and then I'm going to ink that up with that same VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink, and that finishes off the inside of the card. So then for the card front, I covered the back of it with Simon's Big Mama foam tape. So it's got a little bit of dimension, but it's not super bulky. So pop that into place. And then the sentiment is from that same Orchid Rose Bouquet stamp set. And I just gold heat embossed that on a scrap of some soft navy cardstock in my stash. So once that was heat embossed, I just trimmed it out with scissors and then pop that into place with regular foam tape. So it's got, dimension. And then I add a little bit more bling because even though it's got a ton of splatter and the glitter frame, You can't go wrong with bling. So I didn't even pull out. These don't even leave my desk. These are the Studio Caudia gold foil pearls. So I kind of sprinkled those around the card and played with those until I was happy with them. And then I'm just going to adhere these into place with dabs of craft tacky glue using my little embellishment wand. And then I'm going to pair this card with the little cotton candy envelope that came in the kit, and that is it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like I said earlier, I will have links below the video to my blog post. I'll have picture links in my blog post, the photos, all the info. And then, yeah, I'll link to all the supplies I use, the kit, the subscription, the individual things. All that stuff will be in the description box below if any of you are interested. Thank you all so much for watching, subscribing, thumbs upping, commenting. I really appreciate it. And I will see you all very soon in the next video. Bye.